food. I'm gonna eat some
Exactly.
passion fruit.
Let's
Like,
just
make it
We are live, just so you know.
Come see you. Come in.
We're live. Hello.
Hello.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Where's Gay? Oh, you're right out there.
We actually have lunch today.
We got lunch today.
Come right in.
All right, who's doing this? Who's driving?
You are.
I'm driving the camera. I'm not driving the conversation. That's all things normal.
Cool.
All right. Hey, we
Power
can't see
of
you
debt.
doing nothing. Power of debt, right?
What's that topic?
Power of debt.
The power of debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that good?
Well, I don't know. Let's find out.
All right. Well, what does the power of debt mean?
Question.
I don't know. Is it like the power of love?
Power of love. The power of debt.
Probably love.
I suppose
Yeah,
you
we're
can
live.
make- you can make money out of debt.
You don't look like stunned mullets. We're live. You talk about the power of debt. Why are we talking about the power of debt today?
Because most people are in debt. That's
And
fair.
then it's power.
Well,
Is that a good or a bad thing?
it has the ability to be powerful for good and powerful for bad, doesn't it? At the moment, you have to say it has the power of evil for a lot of people. But in good times, when debt's cheap, it can be good. Is that fair?
So debt's good when it's cheap.
That's only good when it's working for you.
Debt's cheap. I would say debt's good when it's cheap, but also when it's used for the right thing. And to me, debt is only good on appreciating assets, not on depreciating assets. That's my very simplistic view of it.
Power of debt. Yeah, I don't like debt. I think if you can avoid it, I think it's a good thing. So I try and avoid it at all costs. E.g. a car, right? If you go buy a car, try to buy it in cash, not with a debt. So I try and avoid debt at all costs. So where's the power in it, Scott?
I didn't say I agree with it. It is to do with the article that come out today
Okay.
or yesterday or sometime. I don't know when it was. Let's have a look here.
What's the article say?
It says, well, we can't read it because it's behind a paywall.
I thought I said that.
Paywall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
but we can read the title, right? Because I can read it on Apple News.
Okay.
And there, how your mortgage can make you $1 million, and it was talking about the power of debt.
Okay. How your mortgage can make you $1 million.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And this one says the power of debt: 3 ways your home loan can earn you $1 million.
If you pay it off.
If you pay. So, without reading the article, do we have any idea what we think that would be?
We'll probably talk about having a mortgage and therefore having equity and then having further mortgages
Yeah, I'd
to
say
make your money,
right.
I would suggest.
So
Yeah.
it's focusing on capital growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a few different ways that you can use debt, right? So one is to sit there and do nothing. The other is to leverage into property, and the other is to leverage into other assets.
That's not really going to work too well unless you're on a high income to pay off the debt. At least in this market.
Well, that's right. You'll be able to service it, haven't you?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So would you look at it from the perspective of, let's have a look at person A who's got $1 million and person B that's got $1 million, and person A goes and buys a house debt-free with that $1 million.
Yeah.
And over 20 years, 10 years, whatever, let's call it 10 years, that house is worth $2 million, whereas person B goes and uses that $1 million as deposits and obtains debt and buys 5 houses instead.
Yeah.
That are all worth $1 million each and worth $2 million. So does that mean person B has $20 million or $10 million versus person A because they use debt up to their power?
Well, that's what they're saying, yeah.
But then you're borrowing, you're probably borrowing $5 million there anyway, so you've got to be able to service that.
That's right. Yeah. So it always goes back to serviceability. But I guess the essence of that is that debt can be powerful because it can exponentially increase your opportunity to make money.
Well, the thing is, they associate debt with leverage because that's what it is.
Yeah.
But so debt, therefore, when they say leverage, they mean magnification.
Mhm.
But then it also works both ways.
Mm.
So the person who bought their house cash and who just mows on the market doesn't have any exposure to debt, therefore there's no risk.
Very true.
You know, and the flip side is they're saying there's no reward, right? The reward is the upside. But if the market did tank and you were underwater, as they say, then that's magnified and you're going to lose your home.
Yeah.
You know?
Indeed.
That comes down to risk as well, doesn't it, I guess?
Yeah, well, let's take COVID, for instance, right? So obviously there were some mandates, which we won't go into. And if you're
I prefer to go on the day.
We'd love to go on.
mandates,
Especially during COVID because my wife was at home, you know.
woman dates, good. Glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, just checking.
But during COVID, there was a demand, like there was certain mandates that you had to do in order to keep your job.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, your serviceability to your debt, you're required to do certain things. E.g., there was a time when the vaccines were mandatory. So therefore, a lot of people lost their job that didn't choose to do that. And that's a whole nother topic. But so what happens in a market where things can be like like you could lose your job just simply because of whatever reason. Therefore, now you can't service that debt. So going back to what you said earlier, Jason, if you've got person B that takes their $1 million and puts 100,000 on 10 properties or 200,000 on 5 properties, what they're doing is they're putting themselves right at the border of what they can afford, and all they need is for one little piece of their column or their 4 columns to fall, and there goes the whole house.
Absolutely.
Whereas person A, who's not in debt, is not affected by things like mandates or COVID rules
Very true.
and regulations. So, and obviously we've seen that in recent years because of COVID, making and forcing people to make decisions that are out of their control. But I think, yes, I think there can be such thing as good debt, but I think to have minimize that as much as possible puts you in a much safer position for longevity.
So would it be fair to say then debt can be powerful if used wisely?
I think debt's powerful no matter how it's used.
Well, it is at the end of the day because you owe it to someone, don't you?
Debt's powerfully in your favour.
Just where the power
if you use it wisely. But
Yeah, but even then, that's subject to change and subject to the environment at the time.
I mean, the reality is most people don't have the ability to go and pay cash for $1 million house. So debt has to be a part of most people's lives. So we can't change that unless we're fortunate enough to have been successful in life and don't have that problem. But the reality of that is that's not going to normally happen at the start of your life. It's going to be more during your journey at some point in time, if in fact that ever happens.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, everyone's exposed, to debt. So I guess, it's it's like alcohol, used wisely.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but I think there's a difference with your own house and then you're going to leverage your own house and going into investment property and to keep going on more leverage.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, so that raises questions like if you structure your debt better rather than cross-collateralizing, for example, which is difficult when you're in a difficult situation and you need to sell.
Yeah.
So if you structure your debt wisely as well, that can help in that situation as well, I guess.
So are we going to read the article or not?
Well,
yeah,
look,
I've got it on my phone.
Fortunately, it's the Australian, so the title of the article probably represents what's in it, whereas if it was the Daily Mirror, it would be just clickbait or something, would it?
Yeah, it just goes through the 3 things. You can sit on it, right? So get your debt, sit on your home. It's going to grow in value, blah, blah, blah. The decade gains above 50% show little sign of slowing. More people want to live here, et cetera, et cetera. A median price property today should kind of double by doing nothing by 2040. That's what they're
So
saying.
once again, go back to the topic you were talking about another time. Have you actually made any money?
Yeah, well.
Because it's a one-house value, right? So therefore, if your property doubles in value, but every other property doubles in value, you haven't made anything. So therefore, you're not making $1 million out of your mortgage. You're actually making nothing. You're just in the market and you're sitting still.
So if that's the case, then you've got to leverage it into property, and they can go, etc., get a couple more, they'll double, and then you got a better position, which is what we talked about in one of the other ones you just said, and then you can leverage into other assets. But every time they say leverage, they just mean borrow.
Borrow more money.
That's what it means.
Well, that comes down to your principal place of residence versus investment, doesn't it? Because at the end of the day, I'd rather be person A if all I ever want to be is have my own house and I'm not worried about making more money. But if I want to fast forward 20 years' time, I'd like to be person B who's still got their principal place of residence, it's paid off, and you've got 4 other houses that are worth $2 million that you can then sell and live life happy or whatever they are, and live off the rent or live off the proceeds that you sell it, because you're still only going to have a smaller mortgage, a higher value on that house and the option to sell it.
Before we wind up, the question I've got is, do people think that debt is dangerous?
Anna?
No, I can say it can be. I just think debt's good or bad, and it's dependent on what decisions or strategy they're deciding to make, and it's going to be based on what they want in the future. That's the way that I see it.
Do you consider debt dangerous?
I would consider debt dangerous for somebody like myself, from where I'm at in my life, but maybe moving forward or further down the track, it's not going to be as dangerous.
What about from a younger Ian's person's perspective? Do you
The
consider?
second it crashes, it's sweet because you just get a fixed interest rate of like 1%. Well,
See, that was a typical young person's answer. Wasn't it?
well, here's the issue, right? Debt, as it is at the moment, is dangerous because if you go in and you think, oh, okay, I'll get a fixed interest rate, it's the lowest it's been in a while, it's at 4.5%. You're an idiot.
True.
It is as simple as that. You don't ever want to be paying an interest rate of 4.5% on $500,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Depends what you might if interest rates go to 9.
Well, absolutely. But currently, 4.5% is not typically the lowest it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it will go lower.
If I could be honest, if I was in my children's position at the moment, and you asked me that question, so if I was you, and you asked me that question, I would say, yeah, absolutely. That scares the living daylights out of me
I don't
because
want to get into it.
I'll be looking at borrowing $1 million plus
Absolutely.
with wages that haven't gone up significantly.
Since
I mean,
1900s.
I remember when we bought our first house, my wife and I sat there and we were about to sign the paperwork and we were like fair on pooing ourselves with stress because we were borrowing $150,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Then now the
It's
average
like-
borrower is, what was the article saying? 642,000 or something?
Yes, I've heard.
Oh, that's insane.
So I would say, yeah, it's probably scary for a lot of people, isn't it?
Well, yeah, is it dangerous? So I think it's dangerous if you don't know how to handle it. And so, like, for instance, I was traveling, I had a year off traveling. I was speaking to this guy and he was saying that his brother-in-law and all that, they've got all these houses and they borrowed to the hilt and they were on a fixed, the fixed interest rate before it jumped, right? And they didn't know what to do about it. He kept saying, just sell the house, move on now because you're not going to be able to afford it if they go up. And so they've basically done nothing about it because it's in the too hard baskets. They're not being wise about it. And then they end up losing their house because they can't service that loan because the interest rates have just doubled from their fixed to their variable. So therefore, they are, and because they didn't act and weren't wise about it, there goes the family property. And sure, they might get the money back for it and pay it off, and they might even get some money in the bank. But now they've lost everything they've built because they weren't smart about the debt that they had. And counteracting, what's the next step? Where's the interest rate going to go? Where's the market going to go and all that sort of thing. So, just put it all into a big bubble. So, yeah, I think it can be very dangerous for most people because they don't think about it.
I think it's interesting that the younger people around the table consider debt dangerous, but I would consider that the dangers of debt increase as you get older because the length of time you have to fix the problem is shorter.
Yeah, true.
So you shouldn't really fear it. I mean, I think you should always be cautious with it. I don't love debt at all. But you should fear it less when you're younger than when you are people going out and they're earning big money, say in their 50s. and they go, right, now we're going to expand and do this, and then something goes wrong, they don't have the time to fix it up then,
Yeah, true.
right? And I think that's a lot of mistakes where, I don't know the age of those people, but I see those stories out there when they've actually done okay. Now we're going to do even better. Let's go and hock our house to the hilt and expand.
Yeah.
Well, you should have done that when in your 30s, not in your 50s, because now we've got a problem if it's the problem.
Absolutely. I know.
And you won't get a 25-year home loan because,
That's right.
Exactly.
So
You
it's-
might have 25 years.
well, they only go until retirement
No,
age.
they
So
stop it.
Yeah,
but,
stop it.
also, for the older people in the room, they're much wiser when they get it. They're more mature.
I don't know.
Really?
Jason, Jason,
Did we seriously
Jason's
say that?
Jason, Jason's the elder in the
So
room.
therefore,
It's okay, Grandpa.
That's hilarious. Oh, very true. Very true.
if what you're saying, Scott, the younger people should kind of be less scared of it, but do they actually have the understanding of it, and how do they actually?
Well,
and
okay,
that's the trade-off, right?
That's right.
So even though you might be, let's say you're 50 years old and you've only got X amount of years left to pay that off, and it's very different from being 20. But at 50 years old, you should be a lot smarter and a lot more mature than someone who's 20 years old. So therefore, you should actually be able to pay it off quicker. So I don't know. I think maybe as you're older, you should be less scared of it because you should be wiser enough to handle it.
They should be more wary of it though, because the downsides have a greater impact on you than they do at a young age.
True.
But also, people at a young age, at least in my experience with said people in young age, their eyes are way too big for their stomach. So they want this 7-bedroom house with this, this, and this, and then they go and borrow for X amount. They get approved, shockingly, because this guy didn't go and get a car loan, right? And then all of a sudden, 10 years time pass, and he's like, oh, crap, everything's just got doubled, and I've just still got $500,000 to pay off. And it's like, well, you shouldn't be doing that in the first place. You should be starting small and working your way up.
Yeah.
Because you should, as you were saying, be cautious, but you should also be wise with your decisions in what you're actually picking.
So then it comes down to the company you keep, doesn't it? Who you listen
Well,
to.
that's why the buy now, pay laters are so popular because there's none of this now saving up for anything.
Yeah. It's all just handed to you.
Yeah. Or you have credit cards. You don't need to save up for the TV or save up for an outfit or save up for anything.
You just miss the AGC credit line days, don't you?
It would be interesting to see what the average credit card debt is for the average 20-year-old. It'd be very interesting to see because I reckon it would be pretty high.
It's pretty hard. Why don't we bring that to lunch tomorrow, Gabe? There's some homework.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll find it out.
I remember. I remember when I was at uni, and so I wasn't earning very much
They had
money.
unis back then.
Yeah, they had unis back then. And
Really?
I'll tell you what they
Was
also
that on
had.
the wall?
Here's a blast from the past. They had Brash's music stores.
Uh-huh.
I remember Brash's.
I do.
No idea.
I bought my mega stereo system from
There you go.
Brash's.
Well, that's where I was heading with that. Talking
It
about
was made in
saving.
Japan.
Okay,
Yeah,
move on.
saving for stuff. I bought my first CD player from Brash's in the city, and I used to walk past there every day to get a uni in the city.
Have it up on here. Like,
And no, it was a 5 carousel CD player, Sony, right? And it was like $850 or something, which was huge money in the late 80s, early 90s. And I saved for nearly 6 months to buy that, and then paid cash with it,
Yeah.
But nobody does that these days.
No.
do you
They're
still?
all like, oh, it's fine, I'll pay it back.
No, I
later.
mean, like, do you still save in that manner?
Yes and no. Some things. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, as you get older, you get in a position where you don't have to if you've got the money to just do whatever you want. But not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I equally know as many people in my age group that during COVID ripped hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity out of their house and bought cars and caravans and renovations, and
Because I bought.
maybe didn't spend it on renovations and use it on having fun
Yeah.
because they got sick of being stuck inside during COVID. Well,
Yeah, it was an old time.
imagine being one of those people right now.
They
Like,
put a
holy
caravan.
crap. Yeah.
We got a caravan, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Which is
Who bought a caravan? Who buys a caravan?
But look, I mean, the benefit of that is at least you've got
When you're
somewhere
trying
to
to sell
live when you have to foreclose in your house. You got somewhere to live, a caravan.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? Like, I know lots of people that did that and regretted it.
Yeah.
Do you want to promote the sale of your caravan while you're live?
Yeah.
No, I'm not
Put some
now.
specs on it.
They keep it.
Guys, it's selling for $180,000 and no one's bought it yet.
I'll do, good deal for 160.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to promote my caravan. I actually kind of, I might keep it.
Mhm.
Which means I have to keep the truck.
Well, you might need it one
What a
day.
pity.
You might need somewhere to live.
Yeah, I might need to live. Well, I know a guy who's got a bit of land.
Big war.
Yeah. All right. So
I wouldn't be complaining.
any last comments before we shut this down?
Jason's old.
Oh.
No,
I think any debt can be
Cheap
bad if it's not managed and used wisely.
Yeah. Which really loosely is anything in life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Back to
reverse
Jason's
true then?
analogy
Yeah,
about alcohol. The best way to
any debt can be good if managed correctly.
the best way to deal with debt, or in Jason's analogy, alcohol, is just to not touch it.
Little sip of
So
time.
well, on that note though, then managing debt, we
Yeah.
said that good debt is stuff that's managed, right? That's
Yeah,
what the
okay.
consensus is.
Sure.
And by managing, we mean paying.
Or paying more.
Or just paying, right? So a debt doesn't become a problem unless it's behind,
Yeah.
Sure.
right?
Mhm.
So managing debt then comes down to being able to fund the debt.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So good debt is debt you can fund.
Mhm.
This is what I'm taking from your comments here. And therefore it becomes bad debt when you can't fund it. The problem with that thought pattern is that you can go into something using debt as being good because you can fund it. Then you can get yourself in a situation where you can't fund it.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, by that definition, that debt then becomes bad.
So technically, you need to be able to fund it twice,
Well,
or maybe more.
I
Well, I
think you
think
need
it's
exit
more-
strategies when you get into debt.
Yeah, I think it's more than just being able to fund it. It's being responsible and sensible about the type of debt you take on as well. Because, like somebody can go out there tomorrow and borrow $1 million at 18% or whatever on a second tier lender or whatever, which is risky. But should you and would you do that?
Well, don't take
No.
a bite that's too big to chew.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
So it just comes back to being sensible in your approach, doesn't it?
Yeah. I like having exit strategies. So if you ever do debt,
Yeah.
you have an exit strategy so you can
Mm.
fire sale it out and you don't
Yeah.
get eaten up.
It's not no fun in a panic room because you go straight to the exit. It's just facts.
He's so calm.
We'll go, hang on a minute, where's the suspense?
All right. Okay. Well, that was
painted.
Yeah.
that was a good chat
exercise.
about it. All right. Well, that's it for debt today. Nice
Come back for
chatting.
more debt
Do we have
tomorrow.
any questions?
Do we have any
Comments?
questions or comments? I don't know.
Can we?
Oh no, there's no comments. We can't stream into the group anymore. Just if you watch this from the group,
Yeah.
because
Right.
Facebook's changed it, and most of our viewers were in the group.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. So I've got to try and figure out how we can sort that. But yeah.
It is what it is.
The announcement's in the group.
Ciao then.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for lunch.
All right.
See you.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed your lunch.
Bye.
Bye bye.